If you have gone through life up to this point without having established satisfactory human relationships, do not assume that you cannot change, but it will be necessary to take very definite steps towards solving the problem. You can change and become a popular person, well liked and esteemed, if you are willing to make the effort. May I remind you, as I remind myself, that one of the greatest tragedies of the average person is the tendency to spend our whole lives perfecting a fault. We develop a fault, and we nurse it and cultivate it, and never change it. Like a needle caught in the groove of a defective record on a Victrola, it plays the same old tune over and over again. You must lift the needle out of the groove, then you will have disharmony no longer, but harmony. Don't you spend more of your life perfecting faults in human relations. Spend the rest of your life perfecting your great capacities for friendliness, for personal relations are vitally important to successful living. Still another important factor in getting people to like you is to practice building up the ego of other persons. The ego, being the essence of our personalities, is sacred to us. There is in every person a normal desire for a feeling of self-importance. If I deflate your ego, and therefore your self-importance, though you may laugh it off, I have deeply wounded you. In fact, I have shown disrespect for you, and while you may exercise charity toward me, even so, unless you are finely developed spiritually, you are not going to like me very well. On the other hand, if I elevate your self-respect and contribute to your feeling of personal worth, I am showing high esteem for your ego. I have helped you to be your best self, and therefore you appreciate what I have done. You are grateful to me. You like me for it. The deflation of another person's ego may be mildly done perhaps, but one can never evaluate how deep the depreciation goes from even a remark or an attitude that is not meant to be unkind. Here is the way in which ego is often deflated. The next time you are in a group, and someone tells a joke, and everybody laughs with appreciation and pleasure except yourself, when the laughter has died down, say patronizingly, "Well, that is a pretty good joke all right. Saw it in a magazine last month." Of course it will make you feel quite important to let others know of your superior knowledge, but how does it make the man feel who told the joke? You have robbed him of the satisfaction of having told a good story. You have crowded him out of his brief moments in the limelight and usurped attention to yourself. In fact, you have taken the wind out of his sails, and left him flat and deflated. He enjoyed his momentary little prominence, but you took it away from him. Nobody in that group is going to like you for what you did, and certainly not the man whose story you spoiled. Whether you like the joke or not, let the storyteller and the others enjoy it. Remember, he may be a little bit embarrassed and shy. It would have done him good to have received a response. Don't deflate people. Build them up, and they will love you for it. While writing this chapter, I enjoyed a visit with an old and dear friend, Dr. John W. Hoffman, one-time president of Ohio Wesleyan University. As I sat with him in Pasadena, I realized once again how much this great personality has always meant to me. Many years ago, on the night before my graduation from college, we had a banquet at our fraternity house at which he was present, and made a talk. After dinner he asked me to walk with him to the president's house. It was a beautiful moonlight night in June. All the way up the hill he talked to me about life and its opportunities, and told me what a thrill awaited me as I entered the outside world. As we stood in front of his house, he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Norman, I have always liked you. I believe in you. You have great possibilities. I shall always be proud of you. You have got it in you." Of course he overestimated me, but that is infinitely better than to depreciate a person. It being June and the night before graduation and excitement being in my heart, my sentiments were pretty close to the surface, and I said good night to him through a mist of tears which I tried to conceal. It has been many years since then, but I never forgot what he said nor how he said it on that June night long ago. I have loved him all across the years. I discovered that he made similar statements to many other boys and girls long since become men and women, and they too love him because he respected their personalities and was constantly building them up. Through the years he would write to me, and to others congratulating us on some little thing that we had done, and a word of approval from him meant much. Little wonder this honored guide of youth has the affection and devotion of thousands of people whose lives he touched. Whomever you help to build up, and become a better, stronger, finer person will give you his undying devotion. Build up as many people as you can. Do it unselfishly. Do it because you like them, and because you see possibilities in them. Do this and you will never lack for friends. You will always be well thought of. Build people up, and love them genuinely. Do them good in their esteem, and affection will flow back toward you. The basic principles of getting people to like you need no prolonged and labored emphasis, for they are very simple, and easily illustrate their own truth. However, I list 10 practical rules for getting the esteem of others. The soundness of these principles has been demonstrated innumerable times. Practice them until you become expert at them, and people will like you. 1. Learn to remember names. Inefficiency at this point may indicate that your interest is not sufficiently outgoing. A man's name is very important to him. 2. Be a comfortable person so there is no strain in being with you. Be an old shoe, old hat kind of individual. Be homey. 3. Acquire the quality of relaxed easygoingness, so that things do not ruffle you. 4. Don't be egotistical. Guard against giving the impression that you know it all. Be natural and normally humble. 5. Cultivate the quality of being interesting, so that people will want to be with you, and get something of stimulating value from their association with you. 6. Study to get the scratchy elements out of your personality, even those of which you may be unconscious. 7. Sincerely attempt to heal, on an honest Christian basis, every misunderstanding you have had or now have. Drain off your grievances. 8. Practice liking people until you learn to do so genuinely. Remember what Will Rogers said, "I never met a man I didn't like." Try to be that way. 9. Never miss an opportunity to say a word of congratulation upon anyone's achievement, or express sympathy in sorrow or disappointment. 10. Get a deep spiritual experience, so that you have something to give people that will help them to be stronger and meet life more effectively. Give strength to people and they will give affection to you. Prescription for heartache. Please give me a prescription for heartache. This curious and rather pathetic request was made by a man who had been informed by his doctor that the feelings of disability of which he complained were not of a physical nature. His trouble lay in an inability to rise above sorrow. He was suffering from an ache in his personality as a result of grief. His doctor advised him to secure spiritual consultation and treatment. So continuing to use the terminology of medicine, he repeated his question, "Is there a spiritual prescription which will reduce my constant inner suffering? I realize that sorrow comes to everyone, and I should be able to meet it the same as others. I have tried my best, but find no peace." Again he asked with a sad, slow smile, "Give me a prescription for heartache." There is indeed a prescription for heartache. One element in the prescription is physical activity. The sufferer must avoid the temptation to sit and brood. A sensible program which substitutes physical activity for such fruitless brooding reduces the strain on the area of the mind where we reflect, philosophize, and suffer mental pain. Muscular activity utilizes another part of the brain, and therefore shifts the strain and gives relief. An old country lawyer who had a sound philosophy and much wisdom told a sorrowing woman that the best medicine for a broken heart is to take a scrubbing brush and get down on your knees and go to work. The best medicine for a man, he declared, is to get an axe and chop wood until physically tired. While this is not guaranteed to be a complete cure for heartache, yet it does tend to mitigate such suffering. Whatever the character of your heartache, one of the first steps is to resolve to escape from any defeatist situation which may have been created around yourself. Even though it is difficult to do so, and return once again to the normal course of your life. Get back into the mainstream of life's activities. Take up your old associations. Form new ones. Get busy walking, riding, swimming, playing. Get the blood to coursing through your system. Lose yourself in some worthwhile project. Fill your days with creative activity, and emphasize the physical aspect of activity. Employ healthy mind-relieving busyness, but be sure that it is of a worthwhile and constructive nature. Superficial escapism through feverish activity merely deadens pain temporarily, and does not heal, as, for example, parties and drinking. An excellent and normal release from heartache is to give way to grief. There is a foolish point of view current today, that one should not show grief, that it is not proper to cry or express oneself through the natural mechanism of tears and sobbing. This is a denial of the law of nature. It is natural to cry when pain or sorrow comes. It is a relief mechanism provided in the body by Almighty God, and should be used. To restrain grief, to inhibit it, to bottle it up, is to fail to use one of God's means for eliminating the pressure of sorrow. Like every other function of the human body and nervous system, this must be controlled, but it should not be denied altogether. A good cry by the man or woman is a release from heartache. I should warn, however, that this mechanism should not be used unduly, nor allowed to become a habitual process. Should that happen, it partakes of the nature of abnormal grief, and could become a psychosis. Unrestraint of any kind should not be allowed. I receive many letters from people whose loved ones have died. They tell me that it is very difficult for them to go to the same places they were in the habit of frequenting together, or to be with the same people with whom they associated as a couple, or as a family. Therefore they avoid the old-time places and friends. I regard this as a serious mistake. A secret of curing heartache is to be as normal and natural as possible. This does not imply disloyalty or indifference. This policy is important in avoiding a state of abnormal grief. Normal sorrow is a natural process, and its normality is evidenced by the ability of the individual to return to his usual pursuits and responsibilities and continue therein as formerly. The deeper remedy for heartache, of course, is the curative comfort supplied by trusting God. Inevitably the basic prescription for heartache is to turn to God in an attitude of faith, and empty the mind and heart to Him. Perseverance in the act of spiritual self-emptying will finally bring healing to the broken heart.